read Genesis 19:15 through 30. We got get through this, and we're going to explain what it looks like in the valley. Okay. All right. So we're reading Genesis 19:15 through 30. Read along on the screen. This is the scene with Lot, as the angels have come to save Lot or get Lot and his family out of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, before this, Lot told the angels, okay, I know what y'all came to do, but let's just stay here tonight and we'll leave, a little later. And the angels obliged. We're up to the point now where the morning has come, and we'll go from there. So when morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, get up, take your wife and 2 daughters who are here and go, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city. But Lot hesitated and lingered. The men, which were the angels, took hold of his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his 2 daughters, because the Lord was merciful to him for Abraham's sake. And they brought him out and left him outside the city with his family. When they had brought them outside, one of the angels said, escape for your life. Do not look behind you or stop anywhere in the entire valley. Escape to the mountains of Moab, or you will be consumed and swept away. But Lot said to them, oh no, not that place, my Lord. He didn't want to go there. He did not want to go there, guys. Please listen. Your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have magnified your loving kindness, which is your mercy to me, by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, because the disaster will overtake me and I will be killed. Now look, this town in the distance is near enough for us to flee to. This is Lot speaking. And it is small, with just only a few people. Please, let me escape there. Is it not small? Is that my life, so that my life will be saved? And the angel said to him, behold, I grant you this request also. Now, this is the second time that Lot has had an alternate request from the angel's original assignment to get him out of there. First time they stayed the night at his home, here we go a second time. All right, I'm gonna grant you this request. You wanna go to this little small city? All right. The angel said, I will not destroy this town of which you have spoken. Hurry and take refuge there, for I cannot do anything to punish Sodom until you arrive there. That's another place of God's mercy, that the destruction that's coming for Sodom, the angels won't even do it until Lot is in safe distance, in safety. That applies to us. The destruction coming on the situations that we can be attached to, the people, the circumstances, what could really come up on us. God will spare us from the danger, the destruction that's coming. And it won't let the angels release destruction until we are in a safe place. Thank God for his mercy. For this reason, the town was named Zoar, few small. That's where this town is where Lot asked to settle in instead of going to the mountains, as the angels yanked him and his family out of Sodom. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained down brimstone, flaming sulfur, and fire on Sodom and on Gomorrah from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and the entire valley and all the inhabitants of the city and whatever grew on the ground. Total destruction. But Lot's wife from behind him, foolishly longing, looked back toward Sodom in an act of disobedience, and she became a pillar of salt. 37. Abraham started out early the next morning to the place where he, only the day before, had stood before the Lord. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the valley of the Dead Sea. And he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a kiln. Now, when God ravished and destroyed the cities of the plain of Siddim, he remembered Abraham. And for that reason, and he sent Abraham's nephew Lot out of the midst of the destruction. What does that mean? There was an original place of destruction for Sodom, but there was more destruction to come when he destroyed the cities in which Lot had lived. Now, Lot went up from Zoar and lived in the mountain together with his two daughters, the place that he said a few scriptures back, ladies, I don't want to go up there. For he was afraid to stay any longer in Zoar. Why? Destruction is coming. Sodom was destroyed. The Lord is saying, just because of Abraham, I'm holding back destruction that's coming for the cities that are out, the outlying cities that Lot decided to settle in. And he lived in a cave with his two daughters. All right. All right. So let's get to the meat of it. When we look at these scriptures, Lot had something to lose. And I'm going to paint a picture of how this can happen even with us. Lot had something to lose, maybe status. Was it wealth? Was it comfort? Why is he lingering in a place that's getting ready to be destroyed? What state does he have there? Ezekiel 16, verses 49 through 50 in the Amplified says, behold, this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She had her daughters, the outlying city, had arrogance, abundant food, and careless ease, but she did not help the poor and the needy. It gives us a picture of what Sodom looked like in that day. The people were arrogant, but they had an abundance of food, and they had careless ease. Does that not sound kind of like the large nations, the U.S., Britain, some of these first class nations where they have an abundance of food, the people can be arrogant and careless ease. You don't have anything to worry about, but no help for the needy or help for the poor. So guys, as I'm studying this, I'm like, well, no help for the poor and the needy. Okay, I get that, but is there more to this? According to Jasher chapter 19, the people of Sodom would intentionally starve the needy to death. And anyone who would intervene to give these needy people food in pity would be punished. One woman named Paltit even was burned alive because she snuck and gave a hungry man food to eat that was a foreigner that came into the city. So then, not only do we have people who are trying to rape angels, they would literally, intentionally starve people to death in the streets. But they had an abundance of food, careless ease, and arrogance. This is where Lot and his family lived. Question, and this is, I'm just throwing out there for reflection. Have you ever stayed in a relationship that the people or person you saw you as a temporary foreigner, a placeholder, a visitor? They didn't appreciate you or undervalue you. You endured the disrespect because of what you stood to lose. Because of what you stood to lose, it was hard to leave. When I paint the picture and I'm thinking about the condition of singleness, sometimes we can stay in our Sodom relationship where I got something to lose if I leave. They don't treat me right. They call me a temporary foreigner. They disrespect me. They barge in, whatever the case may be, but I stay because I've invested something. I got a status in there. I have wealth in there. I got a look to upkeep or maintain. Whatever it may be, sometimes we can have investment in our Sodom places, our Sodom relationships, our Sodom connection, right? And it's hard to leave, though there's destruction coming, because I've invested so much time, whatever it may be. Lot's condition and his family is not so far removed from what we can experience. So how can this look in the life of singles? So sometimes we as singles can settle in Zoar and feel safe. Zoar, the city surrounding Sodom, and feel safe there because it's not actually Sodom and Gomorrah when it comes to dating. It's not actually in the city, but I'm close. I'm not still in the city. I should be safe here, right? I'm dating someone that's not quite as bad, right? I'm dating someone who has a form of godliness. I'm dating someone who kind of knows scripture, but he really is not equally yoked with me. These are the outlying cities that we can settle in. One key thing to take note of is that scripture mentions Lot being at the city gate. Now, in that time, Men at the city gate was associated with a place for merchants and business exchange. Men of stature sat at the gate. When we look at Ruth, the story of the book of Ruth, and Boaz. When you look at Proverbs 31, they mentioned the city gate. That was a place of exchange and merchandise. These weren't people that were paupers. These people had money. These were business people, right? Lot was sitting there. As we know, if we read our scriptures, Lot went in with wealth. The reason he went in is because he was a wealthy man. So how much more had he invested in the city of Sodom that made him stay there, and made it hard for him to leave? So I had to ask myself, why Lot's son-in-law, because we read this last time, when Lot tried to get his son-in-laws to leave the city with him, they laughed in the face of danger. Even though their father-in-law warned them that destruction was on the way and they had to leave, they laughed and they were just like, okay, whatever, right? We talked about it earlier. Arrogance, a lot of food, ease of living. We leaving? I know you're saying there's destruction coming, right? I know you're saying that, but look at me. I got all the food I can eat. I got this big old house. Everything's good. Like, why do I need to leave? I had to ask myself, why would Lot linger when there are angels? And Lot knew that they were angels because the word says that he bowed in reverence to them when he saw them. He knew they were holy. He knew it. I had to ask myself, why would his wife look back? We get it. Their daughters were there. That's a reason she can look back. But was there more that caused her to look back to the place that's being destroyed? I had to ask myself why Lot wanted to stay in proximity to a place that was about to be destroyed. Listen, if I know, and we're in the South, most of us, if I know a hurricane's coming and it's a category 5, I'm in Baton Rouge. I'm not going to go to Prairieville. I'm not even going to New Orleans. I'm going out of the state. So I began to ask these questions like, okay, he's had investment here. He's had stake here in this place. Why else would he want to stay in proximity, not fully leave? I want to make sure I keep an eye on where I'm trying to leave from. I don't want to fully detach. It's the comfort zone. As vile as the city of Sodom was, it provided enough comfort for Lot's family and his son-in-law that the benefit that they were getting out of living there far outweighed the risk. That's why it was so hard for him. That's why it was so hard. That's why it can be so hard for us. That comfort zone can cause us a state of delusion and feeling like it's not that way. I don't have to leave just like right now. I can wait till the morning. I don't have to like go all the way away from it. Like I can go kind of to Zoar and the surrounding cities. I can stay close. That's what we'll tell ourselves because it's comfortable. This is a question of reflection. Have you ever hesitated in leaving a situation behind because of how much you'd invested? That could be time, money, effort. It's hard to leave because I've invested so much. Have you ever hesitated or lingered like Lot did in a situation because the benefits outweigh the risk? I'll raise my hand first. Absolutely. But this story, this scripture is letting us know the danger of settling and lingering behind in Sodom and in the outlying cities. You got to go, and we're going to get into why. At the end of the day, Lot's story is also a story of what God is trying to do when he gets us out of a place that's going to be to destroy the destruction. He's trying to bring about transformation, and I'm going to give you scripture for it. But the goal is for transformation, not in Sodom, not in the valley, but the transformation comes when you get where he told you to go. Let's talk about the Cave of Adullam. Now, when we read scripture, the angels told Lot and his family to get to the mountain. But I'm going to give you scripture that the place that they were specifically told to go was the mountains, and they went to the cave at Adullam in the mountains, okay? So in Genesis 19:30, when we got to the end, scripture says, now Lot went up from Zoar, the surrounding city, and lived in the mountain together with his daughters. Jasher, 1955, identifies this place in the mountain as the Cave of Adullam. There are other references to the Cave of Adullam, but for the sake of this conversation, that cave is also mentioned in 1 Samuel 22. You go back and read it. The Cave of Adullam is also the place where David fled from King Saul and was transformed into the king and commander of an army of 400. I'm sorry, I got some typos there, excuse me. An army of 400. And this army of 400 in the Cave of Adullam, David had to confront his fears. David had to hit rock bottom, but when he came out of Adullam, he was a fighting fool. When he came out of Adullam, he had soldiers behind him. When he came out of Adullam, his mindset was transformed. In the cave at Adullam, this is where the angels had directed Lot and his family to go, to the mountains. The cave at Adullam is there. That's where God is trying to get us to. Out of Sodom, don't settle in that valley, get to the mountain. That's the place of your transformation. That's the place of our transformation, according to scripture. So I pulled this up online, guys, and I wanted to see, well, what does the travel to this place look like? Like, it can't be that complicated. But as we read in scripture, Lot said, I don't want to go there. But why not? Of course, we talked about him having a stake in Sodom. But I read this online, guide, about this gentleman named Pete Albright. And he talks about his actual journey to the cave at Adullam, because we want to paint a picture, okay? Pete Albright describes this voyage as difficult. He said access is difficult. You need a Jeep or a safari vehicle with a driver knowing how to call, who to call to get certain gates unlocked. That's why he had them angels. We're here with you, we're gonna get you there. But you need specific directions on how to get to this mountain, to this cave. Pete says, and who knows the exact whereabouts of the cave itself? It was like, it's hard to find. You need someone that's been there. And even the person that brought him, he was like, he had to call his mentor to find out how to get there. It's easy to get lost. Pete says, so I was thrilled on a recent guide seminar. Two companies I've been working with since the middle 1980s to get the opportunity to explore the Cave of Adullam. A Jeep brought us from our minibus up through a rugged, stony forest to an opening at the summit with scattered ruins. The entrance to the cave, however, was not obvious at all. As a matter of fact, our driver had to call his mentor to get the exact coordinates. Okay, sounds like our journey to transformation, to get to the mountain. It's not easy to get there, but you gotta go. Why you have to go? Listen, ladies, getting to the mountains, the Cave of Adullam, because this is a mountain, we have the cave within the mountain. I don't want you to think they're separate. We have a mountain, we have the cave within it. Caves are settled within stones in the mountain. Though uncomfortable, it's better than staying behind in the place of destruction, according to Isaiah 43, 18 through 19. You can settle in the places associated with where God told you to leave and think you're okay. You can settle in Zoar. You can settle in the surrounding cities and think, well, I'm safe, it's okay. But God knows I'm destroying Sodom, and my plan is to destroy the outlying city. But you've settled there. You got to get out of there too. How we can settle in places associated with where God told us to leave. How can we settle in not Sodom, but Zoar? That looks like we're unequally yoked. When we're with men who do not fully follow Christ, I call them counterfeit. They look like it, they smell like it, they sing like it, they act like it, but their heart is far from them. We don't look at action. God looks upon the heart. So we can know when we're fully dealing with men who are of Christ, right? These can be your Zoar. When you settle for being a girlfriend, if God has told you that you are a wife, you're settling. When you allow a man to gaslight you and have hot and cold treatment and confusion with you, you're settling in Zoar. When you're settling for close enough, that's still our counterfeit. When you stay in relationships that have no clarity. We're not talking about marriage, guys. This is strictly for single conversation. Marriage is a whole other hill of beans. For the single life, clarity. God is not the author of confusion. If I'm with a man that operates in confusion, is that of God? It's a simple question. Staying with a man that can only offer you money but cannot lead you past the stop sign on your street, that's not of God. That's not of him. Because if I have a man submitted under Christ that knows how to follow Christ, that knows how to follow instructions of Christ, God knows how to lead that man automatically knows how to lead me because his life is going somewhere, right? He may not get 100% right every time. He may make mistakes, but the goal is that you have a man surrendered to the Father and his will. You're settling in Zoar if you settle for a man who believes that paying bills is enough. Pay my own bills. And there's so much more. But this is how we as singles can settle in Zoar. We're not in Sodom, like we don't have a heathen. He's not that terrible, but Zoar ain't any better. God said, I'm coming to destroy that next. Genesis 19 and 30. Now Lot went up from Zoar and lived in the mountain together with his two daughters, for he was afraid to stay any longer in Zoar. At some point, even Lot was afraid to stay in the in-between places any longer, because he could see the destruction was coming. So here's our reflection. Make the choice to go exactly where God said to go. Get to your cave at Adullam. Get to the mountain. Don't you settle in Zoar. Don't you stay in Sodom because it's comfortable. All bills paid. He cute. He do enough. He go to church. No, he doesn't. If you ask him what the minister was talking about, he has no clue. And if you have to drag him, that's not the same thing either. Do not settle. Even if you have to lose some things in Sodom, you invested time, you invested energy. Guess what? It's better to drop off and lose what you've already invested versus continually to invest. If I'm investing in a stock that's not making any money, how wise is that for me to keep investing when I know that stock is not reaping a harvest? It's not bringing me back anything. It's not yielding any return. Why would I keep investing time and energy and money if it's already shown me that it's no good, doesn't work? Same thing applies to relationships. Same thing applies to our Sodoms. I know you invested time. I know you invested energy. I know you invested money. I know you invested years of your life. I get it. But why invest more if you know that it's not going to bring back a return? Do not rest until you see the exact destination God said to go. Do not settle for a city, a hill, a plain, a valley when you're supposed to be looking for a mountain. I misspelled that. You're supposed to be looking for a mountain, not anything that looks similar to it. The mountain, the mountain, the mountain. Don't you settle for the city, the mountain. Don't believe what people tell you that it's unobtainable, the mountain. If God says it's available, and if he told you to go there and he called you a wife, then that means that's just the fact. The mountain or the cave at Adullam, it may be hard to get to, but it is where you can be transformed. So here's the call to action. When will you become afraid to settle? Will you make the choice to go where God tells you to go? Will you accept the cave of Adullam as your place of transformation? It's not a place to be afraid of, like Lot was originally. I don't want to go there. Don't see it as a place where you have to be afraid. God is bringing you there because he's calling you and believe that you're ready for transformation. Don't be afraid to go to that place. Will you today decide to go to the mountains and find your cave of Adullam so that you can be transformed?